Some roads don't simply exist on a map. They live in your mind, calling to you in your sleep, filling your thoughts at work. The Pan American Highway, a road spanning the length of North and South America, a 30,000-kilometer road trip through more than 15 countries, is that road for us. Life to us is nothing more than a collection of moments, and we want to fill our moments with adventure. So for 18 months, we'll be driving south from Tuctayacta, Canada, all the way to Ushuaia, Argentina. From the Arctic to the Andes, through deserts, jungles, and the unknown, we'll live and wander in our self-built adventure mobile, seeking stories, chasing landscapes, and redefining what it means to us to be modern-day explorers. This is our journey.
Panama City! Not that you can see it with all the rain. Panama, here we come! Well, we just arrived in Panama, and after a long day of driving, we are doing what we love to do, which brings us much comfort.
It's become a tradition. Enter new country, find Little Caesars, eat Little Caesars with a movie.
Yeah. Tomorrow we got another long day of driving. We did like 7.5 hours today, and we got 8 tomorrow to make it to Panama City. Because guess what? Our loading date was just pushed up. So we're going to be loading on Tuesday now. So we got to do our police check on Monday, and then we load on Tuesday.
Crazy.
So we're presently having issues with our refrigerator, and we're not entirely sure what it is, but it might just be the amount of condensation in the refrigerator. But
You didn't believe us that everything was broken.
everything's always broken. So yeah, Meg's gonna clean out the refrigerator because it's gross and all of that is ice in the bottom. And if that doesn't help, then I get to go fix it. So possibly what is happening is that the refrigerator's thermometer is not working for whatever reason. Not entirely sure. It's probably something to do with the humidity. Yeah, Meg's gonna clean it out. If that doesn't help, then right before we ship to Panama and load the van, the refrigerator will be empty, so I'm gonna pull it out and take it apart and see if I can figure out what the issue is.
Lately, we've been noticing just how much our travel pace has picked up. Ever since crossing into Central America, our usual rhythm of travel gave way to longer drive days, shorter stays at camp spots, and eventually a strict schedule once we began the process of shipping our van to South America. Today, we're essentially driving the entire length of Panama in one go. About a month ago, we had lined up a container buddy to ship with at the end of July, but when they canceled at the last minute, we had to quickly adjust our plans. Thankfully, with some help from Overland Embassy and a bit of luck, we found a new shipping partner. The catch? Our new loading date was a full week earlier than the original. Then, just as we crossed into Panama, the date was moved up again by a couple more days, giving us barely enough time to make it to Panama City and handle all the pre-shipping logistics. We're not complaining though. South America has always been the goal, and with winter just beginning in Argentina, we're on track to arrive right as spring begins to bloom. As a quick note, we've been having some issues with our mic, so this video won't contain some of the background audio that we'd normally include. Remember, everything is always broken. Apparently that applies to camera gear too. After a drive through Panama that was significantly shorter than we anticipated, we arrived at the Overland Embassy campground, where we'd be diving into several days of cleaning, maintenance, packing, preparation, and of course, paperwork. A few hours after our arrival, our container buddies arrived as well, Renaud and Laura. They're two French travelers who, after living in Canada for 2 years, have chosen to return back to France. But not before driving the length of North, Central, and South America, just like us.
It's too early for this. So, we got to Overland Embassy, the campground, yesterday afternoon, and we'll be here for 3 nights. Today is like a sort out the van day. So I'm gonna clean, do laundry, that sort of thing, and Alex is gonna do a bunch of little repairs before we load it into the container. And then tomorrow we do our police check and certification, and then after that's completed we can like pay and do all the paperwork, and then we think on Tuesday we're loading the van into the container, at which point we'll get an Airbnb here in Panama City before we set sail through the Sandblast Islands.
Hey there folks, so before we go any further into this video, I just want to bring to your attention our latest sponsor. And it's a sponsor we've actually been working with for a very long time at this point, and that is High Top Vans. So our like 18-inch, I think it's an 18 or 16-inch medium top high top was actually installed at the High Top Van shop in Washougal, Washington. And the reason I'm bringing this up now after 2 years is because on Tuesday, we're going to be loading our van into a container. And the reason that we bought this top in particular is because we wanted to fit under 8.5 feet, which otherwise we'd be doing roll on, roll off. High Top Vans is located in Washougal, Washington, and it's a great little homegrown business with competitive pricing. They can get your van in and out in a day. So if you are looking to add a little bit of headspace to your van, I would seriously consider checking them out at hightopvans.com and talking to them about a possibility for your van. As of right now, they definitely have 2 options for the Chevy Express. They have a 24-inch bubble top and like a 16-inch medium top, which we have on our van right now. And then they also do 40 Econoline vans. If you guys are looking for a high top, make sure to check out High Top Vans. Now to address the faulty refrigerator. So when I pulled the fridge out and like pulled one of the baskets out, I saw that there's a thermometer on the inside, and I think with the amount of humidity and moisture that's been developing up in the fridge, that maybe water got in there. So I'm just gonna pry off the cover and see if I can dry it out. It's always something to fix. There we go. And that's a teeny tiny little thermometer. There. I don't think that rust should affect it, but there's a bunch of gunk on this. Plug is not corroded, but there is moisture in there. I need some dielectric grease, I think. We're using a Set Power NV45S refrigerator. It's a Chinese product, which I know comes with a bit of a stigma, but it's actually served us pretty well. I chose this fridge because of its simplicity, because I wanted to be able to do exactly this, take it apart. It never ceases to amaze me how much maintenance comes with living in a moving vehicle. It's endless. This is why I prioritize products that are easy to disassemble, straightforward, and lack complexity. Next on the list is to pull everything out for a deep clean. I'm not sure where we got the information from and why we believed that we had to deep clean the van before the police inspection, because it turns out it wasn't really necessary. At least it kept us occupied and gave Meg an excuse to deep clean the interior for the first time since we moved into this version of the van. Like many other humans would, we've collected a lot of stuff in the van since starting out, much of which has been pushed to the back corners or hidden under other things. Betty definitely shed a bit of weight in this process, which, as you may know, is something she really needs. Next maintenance item was our roof vent, which we'd unfortunately damaged earlier and it wasn't working properly anymore. Aside from that, it too needed a very good deep clean. Okay, so like a week and a half ago, we backed into a tree and we broke the lifting mechanism for the hood that goes on the Max Air fan. So what I'm doing now is I'm gonna JB weld it together, then wire it so that it can dry, and then we're just gonna have to drive around with the whole thing shut until we get to Colombia.
But yeah. Well, it's been a day.
Whew, that's like, I don't know how many hours, 6 hours of just cleaning and fixing.
But we got a lot done. We're feeling pretty ready for the police inspection tomorrow morning. And I got a couple more jobs finished before we load. We're looking pretty good.
Hopefully.
And we got some stuff fixed. Like we got the fan fixed, which is awesome.
What was the other thing you fixed?
I don't know, I can't remember. Anyway, time for dinner.
The fridge maybe. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe we fixed the fridge. All right, dinner time. Well, it's 20 to 6 in the morning. We're on our way to the police inspection.
And Alex has to pay attention to the road.
Yes, I do.
Bye.
Panama City is a pretty bustling place. Already at just before 6 in the morning, the roads were already starting to get quite congested with other drivers. When we arrived, the police check was a mere checking to make sure VINs matched the paperwork, after which we crossed a busy highway and brought all of our documents to an office to be copied and recorded and input for the port documents and authorities.
Well, like 3 hours later, we are more or less done the entire process. We have to come back at 3 for more documentation.
Just get our certificate.
And then we go to Overland Embassy after to do the rest of the documentation or paperwork. Mm-hmm. It's kind of come as a mixed blessing, our shipping date being pushed forward. We're getting over to Colombia faster, but the other side is that everything is just squished down and there's a lot to do in just 2 days. So.
Yeah. And it's hot. I don't know if we mentioned that.
It's not like hot like Guatemala hot, but it's like really humid here.
Sweaty.
Yeah. All right, let's get some food because we're starving. This is some gridlock right here. Well, after an entire day of waiting, we finally have our paperwork to get us into a container. We have a confirmation for loading tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. in Cologne, which means we have to be up at 4 a.m. to drive to Cologne. We still have to wash the van and then pack our bags before going to bed and doing the whole thing tomorrow. So we're almost there.
Almost.
We're almost in Colombia. And there's Overland Embassy. Look at that thing. That's cool. So there you go. This top right here, this medium top with 285 75/16 tires and a 3-inch lift will allow you to get into a container with only removing the max air fan. 4:50 in the morning. It's loading day. We have an hour drive to get to Cologne.
And hopefully it's fast, and then we can come back and go to our Airbnb and just go to sleep for 3 days.
Yep.
And work.
Let's do it. It's loading day.
Those are containers.
It's loading day.
Alex is putting the tarp over.
Just outside of the port, we waited for a flat deck tow truck to arrive, and then soon after, each vehicle was being lifted up to the edge of each container and driven in. We watched as Dahi's 4Runner was loaded in, and then Laura and Renault's RAV4. These smaller vehicles drove in with ease and left plenty of room for their drivers to exit. Betty, on the other hand, would be a very different story.
This is going to be entertaining, I think.
Oh, esto va a ser. Dios mío.
Although I'm quite aware that a flat deck like this is perfectly capable of picking up a vehicle of Betty's weight, it still felt as though it strained to do so, and while it backed up to the container, I could feel the unnerving sway side to side of a very top-heavy load.
Is he riding?
And now, the moment of truth. This has always been the biggest question mark in my mind for this journey. Will the van fit into a container? Admittedly, I'd never actually measured the van until the information was first requested by Overland Embassy, and even after measuring, I still wasn't 100% certain. Having said that, the van was purpose-built for this, and as Betty rolled into the container without hitting the roof, I was able to let out a breath I'd been holding and mentally clap myself on the back for eyeballing the height perfectly when I was building the van. So, go me.
That Starlink on top is broken, so it's okay if it gets ripped off. Round of applause!
It's inside. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
Hey Alex, give us a wave.
Hi.
You're skinny enough for this. Sunnies. Sunnies. Good thing we have a washing machine at our Airbnb. Back. Oh yeah, the Slow Roamers merch.
Yeah.
How it should be.
Get it dirty.
Dirty. Way to go, babe. Give us a high five.
Well, there you have it. The van is loaded and heading to Colombia. But we're not done yet. Travel is just life with more uncertainties than normal, and we were about to ride a big old wave of uncertainty. But first, sleep. Now that we have a few days before the container is loaded onto the ship and we're still in Panama, we're gonna go check out what Panama is kind of known for, the Panama Canal. The Panama Canal is a 50-mile-long man-made waterway that connects the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, saving ships over 8,000 miles of travel around South America. Completed by the US in 1914 after a failed French effort, it's considered one of the greatest engineering feats of the 20th century. The canal uses a system of locks to raise and lower ships across the Isthmus of Panama, which sits only about 85 feet above sea level at its highest point. Each time a ship transits the Panama Canal, it uses about 190 million liters of fresh water from nearby Gatun Lake. This water is drained through the locks and eventually flows out to sea. More than 14,000 vessels pass through each year, and the toll for large cargo ships can be over $400,000 USD. And one last fun fact, ships that transit the canal are often referred to as Panamax if they fit within the original locks, a standard that has influenced ship design for decades. We watched 4 ships total pass through the locks, 2 bulk serial ships, 1 gas tanker, and 1 massive car carrier. What a cool thing to watch from so close up. Now that we have more than a week of sitting around before we board a sailboat, it's time to soak up as much AC and couch time as possible. The average temperature outside during the day is in the high 30s and humidity around 80%, so most of our time is spent inside. While we're here, we have a comfortable place to work online, so we use the time to catch up on work, editing, and watch shows. Also, one of the things I miss most while living in a van is a couch, so I've done a lot of sitting on this couch. It's great. Despite the heat, we did do a little bit of exploring through Old Town while we were there. Old Town Panama City, known locally as Casco Viejo or Casco Antiguo, is the historic heart of the city and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Founded in 1673 after the original Panama City was sacked by pirates, Casco Viejo is a charming blend of colonial Spanish, French, and Caribbean architecture. Its narrow brick streets are lined with colorful buildings, lively plazas, boutique shops, rooftop bars, and centuries-old churches like the Metropolitan Cathedral. Once neglected, the area has undergone major revitalization and is now a vibrant cultural hub where history and modern life beautifully intersect. If you've been with us long enough, you'll know by now that we're not really city people. Despite that fact, as of late, we've found ourselves passing through and staying in many cities. Central America is a pretty busy and highly populated place, and it's nigh on impossible to get away from humanity here. The intense desire to find wild places has certainly intensified in the last weeks, and we're eager to get the shipping process over so we can access the stretching expanses of South America. Well, that is exactly what's about to happen. What was supposed to come after all this waiting was a 5-day sail through the San Blas Islands from Cologne to Cartagena, an activity we were really looking forward to. When we booked the container from Overland Embassy, we also booked a private room on a boat sailing on the 18th of July. When we were told we were loading early, the sailing trip was suddenly hanging in a no man's land of possibility. If the ship arrived on time, we'd have to cancel the sailing trip. If it was late, like many people have experienced, we could still sail.
Hello. It's our first flight that we've ever taken together.
Wow.
As luck would have it, the ship was on time, and at the last moment, we were forced to cancel our sailing, book flights, and get our butts over to Cartagena to unload the van. A day before we were due to sail, we packed our bags and boarded a plane instead. Luckily, our flight wasn't long. Shortly after we reached cruising altitude, we were informed that we'd begin our descent down to Colombia. And just like that, we were down. Welcome to Colombia, our 11th country on this trip and second continent, South America. The unloading process of the van started that day, and shortly after we dropped our bags off at an Airbnb, we were on our way to the port.
Look at you two.
Yeah, we're the unloading team.
Yep.
The gals.
I'm pretty sure putting us all guys to shame.
That's ours.
Due to Meg's name being on the title of the van, she had to go into port to unload and drive it out. And I got to sit outside the port and twiddle my thumbs for an hour. It was great.
Yahoo! She didn't blow up. Yeah, Betty! You've arrived!
Okay. Ready? Let's do it.
Let's do it. Action.
Action. Okay, so we're just sitting down here for a moment to record a little look back at our experience shipping the Darien Gap for those of you who will be traveling the Pan Am in the future. And if you're not going to be doing that, you can turn off the video now because that's all we're going to talk about. So our experience was different, like everyone else's was different. But I mean, everyone has kind of like a unique and strange experience, but I think we learned some things that are probably valuable to pass on to other folks. So I guess the kind of the first thing is when to schedule your boat. And I think
We decided to do it when we entered Guatemala, so that was approximately 2 months before we shipped, give or take. But our container buddies, I think, booked through Overland Embassy like way closer to the ship date. Our container buddies were kind of blasting through Mexico and Central America, so that was just their reality. But when we entered Central America, we wanted to have a pretty good idea of the shipping date so we could budget our time in each country. And yeah, that ended up working out pretty well for us. We bumped up the ship date
by a week.
Oh, yeah, a week.
And also, like what happened in the process from booking to actually shipping is our original container buddies, for whatever reason, had to cancel. They canceled kind of at the last minute, so we were left scrambling to find another container buddy. And luckily, Overland Embassy found another buddy for us. But that might, kind of add a point to booking earlier so that stuff like that can be worked out.
Yeah.
Because we were panicking for about a day.
Yeah, but that being said, the reason we got a container buddy was because our container buddies booked in with Overland Embassy super last minute. So yeah, I think like at the end of the day, you just have to hold all of these plans very loosely. If our container buddies didn't pop up, we would have probably ended up delayed a week or two. So it's just like this
Ebb and
dance
flow.
of having flexibility, which
Yeah.
can be really hard, especially when you're hot and uncomfortable. But yeah, that's just the nature of this part of the journey.
Yeah, and then to add to that, probably the one thing that we did wrong or maybe shouldn't have is we booked stuff in advance, and then learned afterwards that timing of everything is loose. It's as soon as we got into Panama, we got a message from Overland Embassy saying that we could load the containers like 2 or 3 days early, which left us like almost no time to drive from the border of Panama to Panama City, do our police check, and then load. So it just got crazy really, really fast. On the other side of it now, we're happy because we made it to Colombia like 3 weeks early. But yeah, it was definitely pretty chaotic for those 2 days, pretty stressful and super tiring because we were just working all day and then having to wake up early, do all the paperwork, repeat. So yeah, and what happened is we booked a sailing trip.
I have been like dreaming of this sailing trip for a number of years. So it was definitely high on my priority list to get on a sailboat and do this trip through the San Blas Islands and then to Cartagena. And, you know, I booked that as soon as we got our ship date, as soon as it was confirmed. I booked a boat, which was 2 days after our scheduled sailing. I talked with Overland Embassy, I talked with the Blue Sailing Company. Everyone said that should be fine because I was worried. I wanted to make sure that we were in Panama City for the loading, obviously, and then we were going to get to Cartagena before we had to take any action on the van, unloading it from the container and then taking it out of port. And from every other traveler that we've spoken with, we posted on Facebook, we have friends that have done this, etc., etc. Nobody's received their van before 2 weeks, before that 14-day mark. And so we felt pretty good about booking the sailing, even though there was like tons of uncertainty. At the end of the day, we were like, okay, regardless of the uncertainty, regardless of the estimated date of arrival, let's just book the Airbnb in Panama City until our sail date and hopefully sail. It didn't work out like that.
Yeah, it really didn't work out like that.
So we had our Airbnb in Panama City booked for 10 nights. That was how long we were going to be there before our sailboat departure. And on night 7, we got notice that the container was unloaded in Cartagena and we were going to be unloading the rigs from the container in 48 hours. And so we had to make the last minute decision to cancel the sailboat trip, because if we had waited for the sailboat, gone on the sailing trip, our van would have been waiting in port in the container for like 6 nights. And that means $50 USD each day of additional fees and holding up our container buddies, because unless both of us are there, nobody can unload the vans. So yeah, we canceled the trip, booked a flight to Cartagena, got into Cartagena, and went straight to port to unload Betty.
Yeah, so where everyone had a 14-day experience, we had a 10-day experience.
Not even. We had like 7 days before confirmation that we were going to unload the van.
Yeah.
And then 2 days in between waiting for the van to clear customs, and then we were physically driving away on day 10.
So it's basically unheard of. We have like the rarest of the rare, seemingly.
Super lucky.
Yeah, so it kind of shows that like it's almost completely random.
Yeah.
And that
recently, like, we've had friends reporting 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks. So it's just totally, you just have to kind of guess the whole way through. Nobody knows. Nobody has any real dates to tell you. It's just like a waiting game, which is really hard for us planners.
Yeah, and again, to add to that or to tie in, the cost of things, it's really hard to estimate how much things are going to cost. Meg has better details on how much like each thing, like accommodation and shipping and food cost.
We feel really lucky because we got our van back in record time, exactly when Overland Embassy said we would. And we didn't pay anything beyond the prices that were quoted to us. So in Panama City, we paid $1,200 USD. And in Cartagena, we paid $1,100 USD. And that covers the shipping, whatever is involved at port on either side, and our like helpers with Overland Embassy. Like we literally had somebody holding our hand through the whole process. It was so easy. I feel like we've had harder border crossings logistically, even like with super limited Spanish. Like it was just so easy. I can't even believe it based on what our friends have told us. Yeah, it was completely seamless. So thanks, Overland Embassy. That was amazing.
Yeah.
And then additionally, we paid about $500 USD for Airbnbs, $500 USD for both of us to fly to Cartagena. We had packed a whole bunch of extra stuff because we thought we were going on the sailboat. So our flights were a little bit more expensive because we had to check a bag. If we had known that we were flying, we would have made it work with carry-ons. And it would have been a little bit cheaper, but not by much. And then, yeah, the only other thing we paid for was like what we would have had to pay for anyways, like entering Colombia. Canadians have to pay $85 each to enter Colombia. And we had to pay for our car insurance, which is a little bit more expensive in Colombia than it has been previously for us. And yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, so hold everything loosely when it comes to your shipping process. It's can be super convoluted, or it can be really straightforward. It can be fast. It can be slow. So, yeah, those are the takeaways that we have from this experience. And this is stuff that we had to learn kind of the hard way. So maybe by watching this, you guys will have an easier time when you go to do it yourselves. But of course, you will have a completely unique experience.
Exactly. Yeah. The only thing that was really, disappointing was the sailing trip.
Yeah.
Now, looking back, the only way we could have made it on a sailboat was if we sailed on July 9th and booked the sailing the day before.
Yeah.
Looking back, like I don't think we would have done anything differently because we weren't ready to sail on July 9th. Like we had literally driven for 12 hours and had 3 days in a row of like just working in the heat to clean the van and to do all the paperwork that was necessary to load the van, and we were totally exhausted. Yeah. And so getting on a sailboat and like, staying in a dorm room with 12 other people, just feeling just totally dead and wiped wasn't really what we were ready for. And so I don't think that it could have worked out in any other way. And the other thing is like, I'm the type of person that like, if I want to do something, I want to make sure that I'm gonna do it. So some pre-planning was required. So we ended up paying a deposit to Blue Sailing, $60 US each, that we lost. But yeah, that was it. That was the only cost incurred. And I don't know. With 2020 vision, I don't think we could have done anything differently. So yeah, that's just...
But maybe you can.
Well, maybe it all works out for you. But like, we couldn't have pre-booked that Blue Sailing trip on the 9th or the 11th. Those were the two sailing dates prior to the one that we ended up booking. And we didn't think that our van was going to be loaded by then. So we couldn't have booked those.
Yeah.
You have to wait till the very last minute, which is nerve-wracking in itself. So
So there you go.
There's no moral of the story here.
Well, we're in Colombia now, and we are stoked to explore this beautiful country. It's already been really, really amazing here. So stay tuned for that. The first Colombia video is coming up next. All right, folks.
See ya.
Later. Keep on roaming. All that good stuff. Bye.
And just like that, we've left Central America behind. Its vibrant colors, winding roads, towering volcanoes, and warm coastlines now part of our ever-growing story. Ahead of us stretches the vast and untamed promise of South America, a continent we've dreamed of reaching since the very beginning. When we first pulled away from the end of the road in Canada, we had no idea just how much life we'd live along the way. These past months have held more than just miles. They've carried us through countless landscapes, across borders and language barriers, through moments of awe and times of grit. We've faced breakdowns, breakthroughs, long days behind the wheel, and nights under foreign stars. Each challenge has shaped us. Every moment has added a layer to who we are. It feels like we've lived several lifetimes on this journey already, and yet, as we cross into this new continent, it all still feels like the beginning. We're filled with anticipation, wonder, and a little bit of nervous energy. We're ready to see what's beyond the next bend, ready to be humbled by new mountains, cultures, and horizons. South America has always been our compass point, and now that we're here, we're more grateful than ever to be continuing down this incredible road. Thank you for being here with us on this journey. We hope our stories and experiences spark something in you. Maybe it's a bit of curiosity. Maybe it's the urge to get out and explore this big, beautiful world for yourself. Now, go and chase that next adventure and make the kind of memories that stick with you. Until next time, keep on roaming. If you would like to see behind the scenes content, get route and camp spot information, or if you'd just like to help support us by putting some gas in our tank each month, you can contribute on Patreon. Oh, hey there, bud. Don't forget, before you go on over to slowroamers.com to get yourself some rad Slow Roamers merch. And for additional photos and commentary on our journey, you can follow along on Facebook and Instagram. Alrighty, Central America, we're out of here. South America, here we come.